men too. You know, my grandfather once said to me, he said, women are like flowers growing in one meadow. They're all different, but they're all beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the opening as usual in my own language, and then I will switch to English. Ano tayo niya? Gusto mo na, nagtigapi, waka no. Nagtigapi, sama no. Gusto mo na, nagtigapi, nagapi no. Gusto mo na, nagamatipis kapi, iwan no. Inanas ko mita, kasi mati. Minimini ako sa bisip. Kasi ngayon gapi mini ako ta, maanski. Ipi iskoteo, kita pagkatamo. Nas ko na himeno, kaya kasulta kapi mamu ya. Kasama ni maayo, kakino. Puta, kapi Ma-Mow-We-Tak. Ego isip ako sa inyo mo, kasi matulong so manalag mo nanuwa ko magananak. Hey, our Creator, Grandfather, who said in our four directions. We give you thanks, O Creator, for all your wonderful gifts on Mother Earth, fire, water, air that we breathe. But we give thanks for the most wonderful gift of all, and that's life itself. We ask that you bless each and every one that is gathered here today. We wish all in good health, and that everybody arrives home safely. That we ask for my Creator, Grandfather, Grandmother, and all my relations. Hey. And as usual, I'd like to, I always do, for the respect for other people's beliefs, other denominations or religions, always like to do the Lord's Prayer. If you all join me, thank you. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll call the meeting to order. I'm just going to introduce the board, and then our chairperson will bring the welcoming remarks. Our chairperson is Linda Dillman. Our past chairperson is Norma Lady. Our treasurer, Sloan Wood, is unable to make it, and our secretary, Chris Fritz, was unable to make it. Director, Molly Stapleton, Director, Melanie Kelly, and Director, Gertie Nick. Did I miss anybody? We do have another director, Jean Pankratz. She's actually our vice president, but she has given her letter of resignation because she's going to be moving, so she's not here today either. Okay?
First of all, I'd like to thank Elder Jack Robinson for the prayer. I want to welcome you to the Thompson Senior Resource Council AGM. This is our 25th year. Welcome to Deputy Mayor Kathy Valentino, the Thompson Senior Resource Council members, interested seniors 55 and plus, and others under 55. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted all our necessary restrictions, including our meetings and fundraising for seniors. Many are in need, but we focus on Thompson. Our previous coordinator, Lee Pickett, obtained 2 donations for grocery hampers to as many as possible. Our current coordinator, Penny Beyer, has extended the hamper program deliveries to Food on the Table for winter for 10 seniors, 8 summer hamper recipients, and this continues to the end of September. and continuing to seek grants to extend the hamper program and other suggestions. With our council agreements, some of our input resulted with Zoom meetings, straightening out financial oversights, monthly newsletters, adding names to the senior list to receive the newsletters, building a volunteer list, fundraising, phone communications to seniors, resource brochure, storage of wheelchair, raised toilet seats, walkers for use, iPad training, and advocating for senior exercise program and foot care. All participation and volunteering is welcome and appreciated for seniors supporting seniors. Penny is going to take wherever she went to, is supposed to take over from now.
Okay, I'm right
Oh,
here.
there she is.
So, Linda
Has asked me if I would chair the meeting. So the first order of business to do is to adopt the agenda. Now, I'm going to be taking notes as well, so whoever moves it, can you please say your name? So if it's Melanie or Doreen or whoever, can you please say, Doreen, I will move, and can you say, Norma, I will second, or whoever seconded? That way I will know who is moving and seconding motions, okay? So the first that is required is to adopt the agenda as circulated. Can I have a mover, please?
Joan Goble.
Joan Goble. And a seconder? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, it's carried, okay. So we'll move on to the minutes. So this might be a little bit awkward, and if it is, I apologize. So the minutes are in your packages. I don't know if you've looked at them. So what I'm going to do, because our secretary is not here, I'm just going to read aloud what the motions were. Moved by Norma, seconded by Helen to accept the agenda as distributed. Moved by Norma, seconded by Helen to accept the minutes as read and distributed. Hang on a second, I gotta scroll down here. Come on. I told you this would be awkward. I know, I'll do it this way. Okay. Moved by June, seconded by Renee to accept the treasurer's report as provided. Carried. Moved by June, seconded by Helen to appoint Kendall Pandya as auditors for the April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021 fiscal year. That was carried. Moved by Melanie, seconded by Norma to adopt the budget 2020-2021 as presented. Carried. Moved by Linda, seconded by Norma to accept the chairperson's report as read and distributed. Carried. Moved by Melanie, seconded by Helen to accept the coordinator's report as read and distributed. Carried. And then we held our election of officers. I'm just going to scroll down to the end rather than. So the board members the new board members who were elected last year were Gertie Nick, Jean Pankratz, Molly Stapleton, Helen Koetke, and Norma Leahy. Actually, Helen and Norma were re-elected. And then we had the executive elections. Linda Dearman was moved by Norma, seconded by Melanie to close the nominations so that Linda was the chairperson by acclamation. Moved by Norma, seconded by Gertie to leave the positions vacant until the first meeting of the board. That was for vice chair, and Jean became the vice chair. Moved by Norma, seconded by Jean to close nominations for secretary. So Chris Fritz was secretary by acclamation. Mayor Smoot gave closing remarks. And it was moved by Melanie, seconded by Jean to adjourn the meeting, which adjourned at 3:05. So, are there any questions concerning those minutes? Can I have a mover to accept the minutes, please? Melanie, okay. And a seconder, please? Gertie, okay. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the... We haven't accepted it yet. You were only supposed to do the welcoming remarks, not the whole report. So we'll get to that, okay? Okay. All in favor of adopting the minutes from November 2nd, 2020? Looks carried. Okay. Any business arising from the minutes that anybody would like to bring up? Not seeing any. None. Okay, so the chairperson's report, which Norma has given you, which is, not Norma, I'm sorry, Linda has given you. It's in your package. And so I need somebody to move that we accept Linda's report as presented and distributed. Hang on a sec. There we go. May I have somebody moving that, please? Melanie? Okay. Is there a seconder? Molly? Any discussion or questions to ask of your chair before we move on this? All in favor? Okay, looks carried to me. Okay. Treasurer's report. So our treasurer couldn't be here today. But we've included our notice to reader for our financial statements. Oh, come on, open up. There we go. If you want a few minutes, if you haven't already gone through them, to take a look at them. Let me see if I can point out any, if there's anything to point out here. I didn't bring my hard copy. Okay. So a notice to reader is not the same as an audit. We could not do a proper audit because there were some financial records missing from that year. They were just nowhere to be found. So this year, this fiscal year, we'll be able to have a full audit done. As I scroll down, if you have any questions now, me not being the treasurer, I can probably not give you the proper language. I can give you my explanation of expenses and revenue and that sort of thing. I will point out a couple of things. So professional fees were much higher in 2021 over 2020. And that's because it was done by an accounting firm. The rent, oh no, not the rent, the furniture, or the supplies rather, were higher, and that is because a lot of the program costs got put under supplies. It's broken out in more detail. The current accounting for it is broken out in more detail, so we can give you better numbers, if you will, or the same numbers, but better explanations next year. Wages and benefits were only down because they went 3 or 4 months without having any employees. So overall, the corporation spent less than it received, so it's in a little bit of a surplus for the year, which is what we try to do. Our retained earnings then are $67,581. And I'm not 100% sure how to explain this to you, but if you have any questions, I'll answer them. One thing that I would like to do, I have the sheet where it says programming revenues and expenses, which is not part of this notice to reader. I just wanted to show people what we were trying to do in order to make sure that with our inability to fundraise, it was harder to fundraise, we were still trying to find ways to keep our costs down and maybe even I hate to use the word profit, but basically that's what it is. When you get grants and stuff, you are entitled to keep a certain amount for administration costs, which we did. We just didn't want to be greedy about it. So under revenue, that community foundation grant for $13,595, that's what was provided us the ability to do our Food on the Table for Winter Hamper program. The donations and fundraising, most of that went into that Food on the Table for Winter program. Victoria Lifeline is something that the council had elected not to do early in the spring, so the revenue was only for a couple of months. And then the Northern Regional Health Authority, that has been an annual ongoing grant since 1996, for 25 years, and that's what basically pays for my salary and some rental for programming that's required. There is no core funding for this organization, so all of our programming has to come from donations and grants and fundraising. So I guess that's the notice to reader. Does anybody have any questions on the notice to reader? Okay, now this has been accepted at a board meeting. I think it should probably be accepted at the AGM level. So could I have somebody move that we accept the notice to reader as presented?
Ron, so moved.
Okay. Seconder? Molly Stapleton. Okay, is there any questions?
I just wondered why Northern Regional was so much less.
Why Northern Regional was less? It's not less, Ron. It's not more, but it's not less. That's what they gave for the last 2 years in a row. Or 3 years, sorry.
What page are you at?
We're at page, we're on the notice to reader, so did you say 6? Okay, look up there on the screen and it'll show you the 6th page though. Okay. Any other discussions?
Yes, it says Northern Region Health Authority 51,375 for 2020 and 34,070 for 2021. That's probably why the question.
Well, I don't know how they arrived at that figure because according to Collins from the NRHA, this is what they've been giving us for all those years. Doreen, you had an answer?
Yeah, I think that was because one of the installments came late.
Okay, oh, so it carried over.
Carried
from,
over,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, whoops, sorry. So are there any other questions? I'll call for the question then. There's a motion to accept the notice to reader for April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021. All in favor? Okay, I think that's carried. Okay, and that other little piece of paper, it's just the only 2 programs we really ran in my time as an employee are the 2, the Food on the Table and the Christmas card, and it just shows you that we retained some small earnings, and that's just an example of how we're trying to do things as we move forward. Okay, so we need a motion now to appoint an auditor for the 2021 fiscal year, 2021-2022 fiscal year. Would somebody like to make a motion? you want the same auditor as last time? Melanie will move, okay. Is there a seconder?
Ron seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried, okay. Okay, coordinators report. Oh, wait a minute. Not yet. I want to show you the comparative costs. So I don't know if it's necessary. I just wanted to have more information than what we needed. But based on what I was able to keep track of and based on the information I had at my disposal from before the time I got hired and based on the time that I was working, I just wanted to show you what I've been, there we go. Okay, so what I tried to do is against the budget that the council had voted on prior at the beginning, tried to show where the actual revenue or the balances of the revenue and expenses were. No big surprise that in that year, the revenues, okay, sorry, how do I? Oops. I'm confusing it. Oh boy. This way? What did I do? I've been leaning on the table is what I'm doing. Sorry. Okay, so the New Horizons grant, that actually, the New Horizons grant actually showed up the year following. That's why that's at 0. The Community Foundation was actually more than what was budgeted because Lee Pickett had been able to get a couple of $1,000s as well. Victoria Lifeline, the NRHA, I don't know why it was budgeted for $35,600 when the actual is known, but that's what it was. Donations, they did better in donations than they expected that year. Fundraising was a challenge, of course, and then bank rebates are bank rebates. In terms of expenses,
Penny,
yes,
is it possible to pull that microphone a little closer and speak a little more slowly? All we're getting back here is this kind of.
I'm very sorry. Paul, will this microphone help them hear that? Okay,
Turn around and face the majority of your audience.
okay, I will turn around because otherwise I have to find out where Lisa is in order to, okay. So, and I hope this works. Thank you for letting me know. So, under expenses, the Food on the Table program, that's the second line down.
We don't have that, do we?
Yeah, I just brought it up here. It's just an example to show you what we're doing now and how we're keeping track of things now. It wasn't being kept track, or if it was being kept track of this, it's lost in a computer somewhere that's no longer working. So every expense and every line item is written down and where possible or where maybe required, there's a little explanation in it. And there's some things like here, line 38, there was a visa payment made during Lee Pickett's time for that amount. The check is nowhere to be found. The receipts for the visa statement are nowhere to be found, but it was clearly in the bank that it was paid. So this is why the auditor couldn't do the full audit, because there was things like this that couldn't be found. And I phoned Lee Pickett and he said, well, everything is in the office, and so we did our part. So for that fiscal year, there are some things that are that I can't explain properly because I wasn't there. I was only trying to make the best of what I could at the time. But regardless of whether there was some problems or not, there was still revenue over expenses that I found of $676, and then you notice in the notice to reader, it was $900 and some dollars. So even though I'm not a financial person, I don't do books, I don't do accounting, I've been teaching myself as I go along. So that's not too bad, we're $300 apart. Now, somebody who works in finances, like Kim and Karen, they might cringe to hear me say that, but I figure close counts, right? You know. Okay, so the next thing on our list, so that's just for information. So the coordinator's report. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole report. I just want to give you some of the highlights. It's in your package. This is me, isn't it, doing this? Yeah. Okay, so just a couple of things. When I first started, I found a survey that had been done in 2019, and it listed the top 3 concerns that seniors in Thompson had. One was transportation, that was number 1. Number 2 was communication. Number 3 was housing. Number 4 was foot care, by the way. So not a lot we can do about transportation aside from lobbying or bringing things to the attention of the city or whomever. Not a lot we can do about housing, but I figured we could do something about communication. So we started the newsletter. We expanded. When I first started, there was 32 people on a mailing list. We now have 68 people on a mailing list, and we have 74 on an emailing list. So we have quadrupled the number of seniors we're reaching, and my goal is to be hitting 1,000 people in a year's time, because there's at least that many of us out there. We've also communicated a bit more with Facebook. I'm terrible on Facebook, I admit it, but I still make that effort. We place some advertising strategically here and there on the radio and in the newspaper. You already know about the Community Foundation of Canada grant that provided the 10 hampers for a 16-week period for Food on the Table for Winter program. We also applied to the federal government for a New Horizons for Seniors grant to accomplish 2 things under the communication need. One was a resource guide. Everybody said they needed a resource guide with phone numbers that are easy to find, and they didn't have to go looking for tiny print in a phone book or learn how to use their iPad or whatever. So we produced an iPad, which you will be the very first people to receive them today, okay? And we also have iPad training, and thanks, I hope you don't mind if I mention your name, Kate. Kate Roth, retired teacher, has been just awesome in developing the curriculum, finding volunteer teachers for this, and we started in June, I believe, and so far it's free for seniors. So we supply the iPads unless they have their own, and the training is one-on-one, so it's nice. There's no pressure, no stress for us seniors for that. And okay, the board held a strategic planning session, and there was 3 primary goals that came out of there. One was to host more programming as COVID permits and activities. Another was to create awareness, which I think we've talked about that through communications. Another one was volunteer development. So been working on the volunteer development. I had 8 people helping with the resource guide, proofreading and finding phone numbers, etc. Had the volunteers through the iPad training, so slowly building that up. Had a number of volunteers helping sell raffle tickets for our 50-50 draw. So, and plus people have volunteered to do other things, delivering the hampers and that sort of thing. So that's been great. That's all I'm going to highlight from my report. You can, if you want to read the full report, it's there. I'm kind of keen to talk about the future, but that's not, we can talk about that later if you want. But we've got some exciting things planned for the future too. So I need somebody to move and second adoption of the coordinator's report. Sorry? Okay, and who seconded that? Is there a second? Whoops. Thank you. Oh, are there breaks? Oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, awesome.
Put the brakes on you.
Yeah. Any discussion or questions? No, thank you very much, Melanie.
I'd just like to say, Penny, that it seems as if you've taken over a real dog's breakfast and have tried to make some sense out of the chaos.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a dog's breakfast. I mean, COVID, the organization was very
I mean from the past coordinator.
Pardon me?
I mean from the previous coordinator.
Oh, yeah. But with all due respect, COVID didn't help. The fact that there was really nobody to do the work, and so it kind of, some of it was just in limbo, but it's good. I've learned an awful lot, and I found out that Canada Revenue Agency can be very friendly on the phone. Yeah. When you start off with, oh my God, I think I've screwed up, can you help me? They're really nice to you. Okay, all in favor? Okay, good. All right. Okay, this is where we were going to have greetings from Mayor Smook, who had some things pop up. So instead, we have Deputy Mayor Kathy Valentino.
Yep, here I am.
Thank you.
Back here, up there.
Wherever you're comfortable, Kathy.
Wherever you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Kathy Valentino, as you know, good afternoon. Unfortunately, Mayor Smook was really busy just now with airplanes and stuff at the lodges, so she will try and stop in if she can. She wanted it to be duly noted that the mayor is a senior, so I said I would definitely make sure everyone hear that. So, honestly, on behalf of the city of Thompson, I think listening, and I was on your Facebook page earlier today, that the city can play an important role in your organization, I think, with advocating, whether it be to different levels of government, whether it be to grants that are available, whether it be to letters of support from the mayor's office and council. I think that's something that is duly needed for your organization. I also think that we can provide or ensure we have facilities that are important for our seniors in our community. We have a lot of standing committees that we would love to have senior input on. We think that we definitely are lacking in that area. As a community, I think we saw the need or the use of seniors when we hosted our Manitoba Games in 2018. Many of you were wearing the blue shirts as volunteers, and I think that was a real kickoff to the seniors and the wealth of experience and expertise and time that we all think that you have and that you can offer. So I think we can do a better job of that, all of us within our community. I cannot believe this is your 25th at AGM. I often think of us as a young city, but our demographics are definitely changing and we need to be aware of that. But I just can't wrap my head around that this is your 25th AGM. My mom, as you all know, Saya, she's going to be 83 in November, and I'm 51, so I'm not a senior, but I hope to be here at your next 50th AGM because I'm sure I will still be actively involved in this great city.
Only 4 more years.
I know. I just wanted to add that. I did notice in some of your information that you were hosting 55 and up for seniors, but it was a widows thing. It was in your pamphlet, and I think that's fabulous. I'm a widow here in the city, and I think that seniors and widows kind of goes hand in hand, it seems a lot of times, and I think that that's something that we need to have more of in our community of support for that also. So I did notice that and wanted to recognize that today also. So we wish you all the best, and I do hope to be here in 4 years at your AGM then. So thank you all.
You'll be nominated to the board. Thank you.
That calls for you to take back the concerns we have around the use of the TRCC. The hours have been cut drastically. There's been periods where for a week we're not able to use the track. I understand there's an issue with pacemaker, but
Yeah.
a lot of us depend on that.
Definitely, I can take that back. We've had some challenges with COVID with reallocating staff, so we didn't have to have any layoffs. So we're starting to work through that, and with the ice surfaces going in, that should improve. But I also think we could do a better job of communicating those hours. That has been brought up, but I can definitely have that readdressed also. We're also working with the province on the finishing up of the vax clinic, so that in the near future, this fall sometime hopefully, that we can have the facility back up and running, so our youth will have some opportunity to get back to some recreation also. Thanks.
This might be a coincidence, Barb, but I got an email from the city's recreation department this morning asking if I would like to meet with them to talk about how we can do things together. I've reached out to them before. So next week, hopefully we'll get together. Yeah. Okay. Okie dokie. Thank you very much, Kathy. Okay, so new business. Changes to the Constitution. There's been a lot of cleanup done to the Constitution based on the strategic planning. So what I'm going to do, just so that you know what they are, I'm going to go through what those changes are so that you can feel fairly comfortable voting on this, okay? The first change was the name and address and including the charitable status number. That was not included in the other version. The vision was added. There was no vision statement in the previous Constitution. I shouldn't say previous version of the Constitution. The mission statement was in the previous version. Based on the strategic planning, the wording was tightened up considerably. The other one was very wordy, and this says the same thing, just in a much tighter way. The purpose of the organization is strictly from the strategic planning session. That's what was decided through there. Guiding values is an addition to the Constitution. There were no guiding values in the previous version. Now, the goals, this is quite different. The goals in the previous version was a very long list and was basically a job description for your employee, all right? So what they did during the strategic planning session, they just set those goals aside and they said, start from scratch, fresh paper, what would you do for goals? And so these 3 goals are what was developed. Then we looked at the previous goals, like the goals from the previous version, and we found out, oh yeah, so this fits into there, this fits into there, this. So all of those goals from the previous version are covered under these as broader headings for goals, okay? But all of those other things from the other version, they're still in the job description, okay? Membership was left untouched. Oh, that's not me, good. Board of Directors. Yeah, that's not me, good, okay. Okay. Now, the terms of office. It was redefined a little bit. It wasn't really clear when you read the previous version what the terms of office was supposed to be. Yay, here she is. Would you still like an opportunity to say something, Mayor Smook? Deputy Mayor Kathy did an awesome job letting us know that you're a senior. And that she's not. Yes, okay. Okay.
As a senior, you should have trouble remembering her name there.
Yeah. I'll just finish going through this and then we'll ask Mayor Smook. Well, Mayor Smook maybe will make our draw too. So under membership, the way it's worded, everybody in this room has a vote. If we had 20 different people in this room and not you, they would have a vote, as long as people are subscribing to the idea of supporting seniors and helping seniors support seniors. If they can subscribe to the mission, vision, and everything else that's in our Constitution, then they can be a part of it. Wait a minute. Come on. Terms of office. This is something that was a little unclear. When you read the other version, it looked like, but wasn't clear, it looked like they were all supposed to be 2-year terms. And and even though it didn't say specifically that the 2-year terms should be offset from each other so that you're only electing half a board every year. But it wasn't worded clearly enough, so we're hoping that what we've done here with terms of office will be a little bit more clear. If it's not, I guess there's more changes next year. Okay, now, role of officers. Okay.
Can I ask on that one, why do you have the board executives being elected after the board position?
That's,
Very often it goes the other way around.
yeah,
The person
that,
applies for the highest job, if they don't get it, they go down.
yeah. So that was just the way it has been done according to the previous constitution, and nobody talked about changing it. So that after you elect your directors, then you would elect your executive from the people who got elected as directors. That was the rationale when it was discussed, but they didn't see fit to change it in the discussions.
So who elects those? Is it the board then?
No,
It says
the election.
membership.
So
But you have to
we'll elect the board.
They would give it a board position.
We'll elect the board. You'll know who your board members are, and then from those board members, we'll nominate chair, vice chair, whoever, if they'll let their name stand. So those executive positions get elected from the directors, from the people who get elected as directors. Okay?
Sounds odd.
Not so odd. I know with a friend, at least everybody in this room would get to pick your chairperson and everything. The way we do it at Ma-Mow-We-Tak, we elect all of our directors, and then the directors at their first meeting choose who's going to be their own chairperson and treasurer and everything else. So then it's just a board decision. But here, at least everybody in the room gets a choice in who gets to be chair and vice chair and president. Okay? It is different, okay. Okay, role of officers, the revisions that were made there, we sought some professional help for governance for some of these because, and there will possibly be some more changes required moving forward. But any changes in there, basically clarify or tighten up the roles. Now that they're a little bit more clear, whoever the new board is, they'll have a year to work with it and decide whether this is what they want or whether it's going to require a change. Now we have a couple of additions. Oh, okay, board attendance is the same. Okay, a couple of additions. One is standing committees. So this board meets once a month, but outside of those board meetings, they have no input into what's going on. So there's got to be a programming committee, a finance committee, and a governance committee. And every board member has to be on one of those committees so that they can be involved. And then, so those committees will have to meet separately. Also added is ad hoc committees. So if you have one specific program, say the 50-50 raffle, so rather than getting your employee to do what's required for the 50-50 raffle, you get a little ad hoc committee. And these committees, the standing committees have to be chaired by a board member, but all of the members do not have to be board members. Same thing with your ad hoc committees, right? So the only difference is your ad hoc committee only lasts for the duration of that project. So once a draw is made, the committee is disbanded, for instance, if it was for raffles. So, so it's another way to get more people involved as well. Signing officers remain the same. Meetings remain the same, although I'm strongly suggesting that the AGM be held in June, not September. That's my suggestion, but okay. Okay, and amendments was changed. Under the previous version, changes to the Constitution could be made at any board meeting. And from a governance point of view, that's not such a hot idea, because you only get a small select group of people discussing those changes, when in reality it should be a broader group of people. So the change was that that any changes to the Constitution have to be made at an AGM, which this is today. So, and otherwise, that's it. Are there any questions?
For the changing of the Constitution, what sort of notice would have to be given? Normally, the notice given.
It's supposed to be 30 days. And the notice that was given this time, well, because the board was discussing it for the last, well, since February, the final version was given out in June to all of the all of the board members, whether they were active or not, and that's as far as the notice went. Not all of our board members were involved in the strategic planning, and not all of them were part of those discussions. Yeah.
I want to thank you for that nice letter for the donations for the hampers. More of a suggestion, I would say, is that I would have constructive conversations with the city of Thompson. I would have conversations with the province on lease land. We all know that food prices are going up. There is money out there, seed money, for growing your own fresh vegetables. I live on 183 Riverside Drive. I have a huge garden, which is probably be able to feed up to about 50 families for a few months. Now, there are other organizations out there, like the Ma-Mow-We-Tak Federation, that have youth programs where that they pay for these students, where as long as that you have land, and the city has a lot of unused areas that can easily be worked up, and you could grow a bunch of food. So when you're taking a look at your costs for your food hampers, you could get rid of a bunch of those costs and have fresh vegetables at a very low cost.
So what Stephen's talking about is a very good example of the kind of conversations that can take place at a programming committee level, right? So we've had these talks, so that's exactly the kind of.
And it's also great for the community. Mm-hmm. I know all of my neighbors, and they all come by, they stop at the garden, they talk, and everything else, and all of my neighbors get vegetables, and it's hard to even give away vegetables sometimes because they're not even home.
Stephen, I have to pull this conversation back to the Constitution, okay?
Yeah.
We'll finish this first.
Yeah, definitely.
So are there any other questions regarding the changes to the Constitution? Does anybody want to move that we adopt the Constitution as revised?
Leona, I'll move the adoption of the Constitution as presented.
Okay, thank you, Leona. Is there a seconder? Jason, okay.
Jason Cook.
That's why you look familiar. Is there any further discussion? Any other questions? Okay, call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We're going to ask Mayor Smook to say a few words while, okay. After Mayor Smook says a few words, I'm going to ask you guys to pour yourself a coffee so I can tabulate the final amount of our draw. When we walked in the door, it was $1,850 was the prize. I suspect it's going to be a teeny bit higher because some people bought tickets when they came in, okay? And we're going to ask Mayor Smook to make the draw if she can stay that long.
Okay, I can only stay a few more minutes because I have hunters that I have to pick up to get back to the airport. I thought it was important that I at least show up today. I'm sure Kathy did a wonderful job, and she always does. She's a much better speaker than I am, so
she can baffle you. No. Anyway, I would just like to say, you know, we are aging. I've been here 50 years now, and we were all young when we came here. I know I was one of the lucky ones that even have my parents here. Mom and Dad lived here already when I moved here in '71, so I was always, same with Nick, his parents were here, so our kids all knew both sets of grandparents. And that was very unusual back in those days, so we're definitely matured. I'm not sure that we've all matured or we've realized that there's so much that has happened in our community over the years, and we definitely have to, whether it be the city, the levels of government, we've got to let them know that Thompson has matured, and we definitely need things. And I think we are working on that. One of the things, even if we go with the gardens, we actually in our budget this year, we have money for community gardens. Trouble is this year, through COVID and everything, we couldn't get the help at the city. We didn't have people working that could put some of this in place. But I happened to be in the right place last weekend, and somebody come up to me and has offered to take over that project and get a start on it this fall so that the gardens are ready. So I've already talked to Anthony at the city. We can't see a problem working, you know, problem with that. And even for a couple of different areas. So we have one area that we had sort of identified. In talking to this person, we've identified another area in close proximity. I also mentioned, I'm not sure how it went this year, but I know last year when I was at Rotary, there wasn't a lot of the gardens that were used. There were a lot of them. So this person even offered that they would get students and people involved and come over to Rotary, and you guys can help them, you know, get it started again and that, and things going. So these are all things that are in the works and that. Our rec center programs have really, you know, taken a hit. They were just starting, I think, to recognize with the walking track and a few other things. And we're definitely going to be on track as soon as we can get open. We're actually working with the vaccination clinic and that to see, because they are winding down. We do need our, you know, space back at PRCC. So we definitely have to work with them and find options of how we can work together so we can have the recreation, but we still need to keep the vaccinations. I was just going to call this morning. We need to do another 100,000 vaccinations in the province to get up to snuff to the 90%. But the good news is we only need 5,000 of them in the north. So if you know anybody that can be vaccinated, let's get our numbers up there. Let's get, today there was 9 new cases in the north, so that is creeping up. We've got to make sure we get that down to keep that variant out of here. So it's very important that us and our children and grandchildren all get that message. And we at the city are definitely there to support. I know we all get busy and things get put on a back burner. So it's up to you to keep phoning us, keep phoning me, keep us in your thoughts and that. So on behalf of all my fellow councillors and city administration and staff, we're short-handed right now. You'll be the first ones to admit it. But please keep coming with the ideas. And it doesn't have to be us that does it. If you or somebody that knows wants to pick up a project, youth group, we started our first year administration. We actually had youth councillors on our different committees and that. I would really like to see that on our last year that is coming up. I'm not sure how it is, so we haven't had it for the last 2 years, but we've got to get the youth involved more in the city, and it's up to us that have been here around a while and to get it happening. So thank you for allowing me to come in late and leave early sort of thing, but I really appreciate all that everybody does in the community. Thank you. And all of you, when I put it on Facebook and then I see you out there getting your shot, hey, that was great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into the election of officers now.
Coming back here with these?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to go through the entire list of roles and responsibilities. I figure this age group probably knows them more than anybody. But basically 3 things: to make policies, direct the staff to implement those policies, and monitor the outcomes. And I think probably monitoring the outcomes is the one thing that needs the most attention, at least for the time being. So in terms of how many people we can vote or nominate, so I don't know if this is, okay, I don't know if I can make this bigger, can I? I should try and make it bigger.
Is there any names put forward or any old members that are wanting to rerun?
Yeah, I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through that right now, Ron. I'm just trying to make this a little bit bigger. I didn't realize that it was so small.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not the fastest person here. I don't see a different.
Put it to 200.
I got to put it to 200? Okay. I got to get my fingers to go to the right spot first. There, okay, so we just,
That's for the blank people.
yeah, move over this way a little bit. So, here's where we stand right now. Linda Dearman is completing her second year. So her position is up, and, well, if she's nominated, then we'll ask if she'll let her name stand, okay? Jean Pankratz is entering her second year, but she's resigning because she's moving, so her position is vacant, but it's a one-year term, 1 year left in her term, okay? Lone Wood has completed his second year, his position is up, he's not letting his name stand. Chris Fritz, she's completing her second year, her position is up, and she is letting her name stand. Norma Leahy is entering her second year, so she's not up for re-election, she just stays. Melanie Kelly is finishing her second year, her position is up, and she's letting her name stand. Helen Kotke is entering her second year, so her position is not up for re-election. Renee McLean is finishing her second year, her position is up, and she's not letting her name stand. Molly Robinson is entering her second year, so her position is... What did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, there's a flashback. I'm sorry. Molly Stapleton.
Yeah, I think Molly would have a hard time being here.
Yeah, I think so. So Molly Stapleton, I'm sorry, wow, she's entering her second year, so her position's not up. She goes another year. Same thing for Gertie Nix, she goes another year. And then we do have 2 vacancies from people who had left the board during the year. So in total, we're electing 6 positions for 2-year terms and 2 positions for a 1-year term. And if you find that confusing, I'm sorry, it took me 3 weeks to get my head around this, okay? So don't feel bad. So what we're going to do now, I guess I'll use the whiteboard. Okay, I'll take this with me. What we're doing now is calling for nominations for people to serve on the board. We do not have to renominate Norma, Helen, Molly, or Gertie. They're already, their names still stand. Alrighty, so I'll just start by asking, are there any nominations to fill the director positions on the council? Nobody wants to nominate anybody else. Does anybody want to volunteer? Let me go to this old list. Linda, are you letting your name stand?
I will.
Okay, so. Hang on. Chris has already indicated she's letting her name stand. Melanie, you're letting your name stand? And that's it. So those are the only 3 board members from previous who are letting their names stand. Are there any nominations from the floor? We really need to fill. We need at least 4 more names to make this a legitimate board, according to the Constitution. Pardon me? For a 1-year term, okay? Pardon me?
You need seconds?
No, I'll just ask. Once we get the list filled, then I'm gonna make sure everybody will let their name stand. Yeah, we won't need to vote, I don't think. Anybody else like to volunteer? Okay, we'll do this like an auction. For the 1-year term. You realize, Ron? Thank you. Awesome. Ron, is that for the 1 year or the 2-year term?
Jason.
Jason, I'm sorry. My husband's name is Ron.
You're thinking of wrong, that's what.
Kenny, could you outline the time commitment?
The time commitment, okay. So there's monthly meetings, and those meetings usually last about an hour and a half. And they tried having some in the afternoons and some in the evenings, and it really depends on the makeup of the board which one works the best. So that would be a decision that you'll make as the board, whether they're afternoons or evenings. With the addition of the standing committees, there's probably going to be about another meeting every other month thrown in there for that committee. So if it's programming, and we're going to talk about some of the things that Stephen talked about, for instance, advocating for gardens and grants or whatever for community gardens, that could be a standing committee discussion, or it could be given to an ad hoc committee, depending on what direction it goes in. So I'm thinking, and well, the other thing too is besides meetings, there are also things that the current board has really stepped up to the plate on to help, like delivering of all of the hampers. The majority of the people who are delivering hampers are also board members. Actually, the only ones right now who are delivering, if I may mention their names, are Kate and Greg. Right, all of them may continue to do it. So there's volunteer opportunities. When we had our Bring Your Bloomers event, it was all board members who sat at that table at that time. So there will be events and activities that you'll probably be asked to volunteer at as well. But it's not a full-time job. Wendy?
Cindy said not a full-time job, that's.
Wendy, just doing the 1 term, 1 year, or?
1 year at this moment.
1 year?
At the end of 1 year, I'll see if I.
Well, I'm gonna say something that sounds terribly sexist, but we need another male on the board.
Or 2.
Or 2. The males have traditionally been underrepresented on this board, seriously.
You can guarantee all the next 2 years, also like the staff 2 years, or?
Sitting back here. If we guarantee you're alive, did you say? Ron, did you say if you're alive, you'll go 2 years?
Ron T, yes.
Okay?
He asked if you could guarantee that he would be alive for 2 years. 2 years.
2-year term?
If you can guarantee.
We'll put you on life support and keep you here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 more. Thank you for the men showing courage.
What just got here?
9, 10, 11. Okay, we have 11. If all of these 8 people were on the board, or 8, 2, 4, 6, these 7 plus 3, 2, 3, 4, plus 4, it makes 11. The Constitution allows for up to 12, so we can have 11 members. It's going to be between 10 and 12. So 11 is between 10 and 12. If the people in this room are satisfied, then we can have a motion to accept these people to the Board of the Council with all being 2-year terms except for Esther and Wendy. They'll serve the 1-year terms. Yeah, that'll work. If this room is agreeable and if you find that acceptable, then somebody just has to move. Oh, wait a minute. First of all, one thing I have to do. Linda, you'll let your name stand. Chris has already said she would. Melanie, you'll let your name stand. Esther, you'll still let your name stand. No cold feet. Jason, you'll still let your name stand. No cold feet. Wendy, you'll still let your name stand. No cold feet. And Ron, you'll still let your name stand. No cold feet. Okay. All right. So now that we've confirmed that people are okay letting their name stand, would somebody like to move that we accept these names? I'll write them out in the minutes properly, but these people to our board. You move? Okay. I gotta get a pen.
Board be accepted as
thank you,
candidates for the committee for the board.
Are you Melanie?
We need a second.
Yeah, we will need a second. Hang on. You know how hard it is. Okay. Well, that really shortens the election nicely. Okay. So that was moved by Norma, seconded by Molly. Any discussion? Not likely. All in favor? Carried. Okay, awesome. Okay.
But perhaps tell them when the next meeting is.
Okay, yeah. Well, next is questions from the floor. Are there any questions that anybody has that they would like to ask in general? Can I tell you about the grant I'm waiting for? Come on, I'm really excited about this.
Oh.
I applied for a grant for $81,000 to buy specialized bicycles for seniors. These bicycles, one style has a platform that you can put the wheelchair on, another one has a detachable wheelchair that you can attach. There's a rickshaw style where you can have a couple sitting in front of your driver behind, and the program, and plus all the safety gear, and there's a side-by-side as well. And the idea is to make use of our multi-use pass, get people out in the fresh air, make it intergenerational, because we'll have to hire, hopefully through a Green Team grant, hire students or whomever to bicycle or to drive people around on their bikes. They'll have to be trained in first aid and CPR, of course. So all of that's in the grant, and that's why it's $81,000. And we're supposed to find out this month, but I was really hoping we'd find out by today. But I'm excited about that. So if that happens, we'll have. I think there's only 2 other communities in the country so far that are doing anything like this with getting people up. So that would be awesome. Are there any questions from the floor? I'm sorry, it was so nice to get that out. So, Linda, I'm going to leave you with closing remarks.
Just wait back here.
What was my closing remarks? I want to thank everybody for coming out. It was very good of you. Everybody who's over 55. There was a few that are under 55. We have a large community of seniors in Thompson now. When I first moved here, there were none. If you retired, you moved. Now we are staying here. But we have problems with isolation, communication, finances, groceries, you name it. But because everybody here was willing to come out, I'm sure we'll all put our best foot forward and do our best to support seniors because, hey, we either are seniors who may need help in the future or becoming a senior. So I want to thank, Jack isn't here anymore. Thanks, Paul, for recording this. Thanks for charity. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
According to the Constitution, your next AGM will be the second Tuesday of September 2022. That's just an announcement. I'm going to ask everybody who's on the board now, the new members, can you please stay behind for two reasons. One is I'd like a group picture of you, and number two, we have to set a date for your first meeting, which will also be an orientation for you. So if you can stay behind for that, that would be great. Other than that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
You have one position, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. Oh, duh. Okay, we can't adjourn. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I have to back up. And you'll just have to remember what Linda's comments were.
No, don't
Penny, I just want to say I'm officially 65 when we were funded.
Nice, okay. Let me get this marker. Congratulations on 65. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, and the only reason why that slipped my mind is because I'm also a senior, so. So we need okay, so we have to add, Chris, okay, we've got, no, hang on. Too many papers in my hand, where's my? There we go.
Kristen Melanie? I mean,
Okay.
Molly?
So we've got,
Kristen Molly?
We're on there.
yeah, hang on. So Helen's name goes on here. Molly's name needs to go on here. Gertie's name needs to go on here.
Yes, yes.
Helen, Gertie, and Molly.
Not Logan.
Norma. Oh, Norma's not on here. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is your board of directors.
No.
Helen Koke, who couldn't be here today, she's not well. Linda Dearman, Chris Reds, who's out of town, Melanie Kelly, Esther Laxman, Norma Leahy, Jason Cook, Wendy Hodgson, Ron Trainer, Molly Stapleton, and Gertie Nick.
Excuse me?
Yes,
What's your name?
I'm not on the board. This.
But what's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was Penny Buyer. Anyways, so from this list, we need to pick your chairman, your vice chairman, your treasurer, and your secretary. So I will entertain nominations for chairperson. Linda, will you let your name stand, Linda?
Yes.
Seconded.
Nominated by Melanie, seconded by who?
Norma. Oh, Molly, okay.
And she will let her name stand. Okay, are there other nominations for chairperson? I have to ask 3 times.
I would nominate Molly.
Molly? Okay, will you let your name stand?
Or
Chairperson. Okay, she will not let her name stand.
All right.
Okay. Are there other nominations for chairperson? And the last time, are there any other nominations for chairperson? Linda, you are chairperson by acclamation.
Yay.
Okay, vice chairperson. Are there any nominations for vice chairperson?
Can I nominate?
Yes, you can.
Molly.
Molly, will you let your name stand for vice chair?
I'll second it, as yet, that.
Will you let your name stand? Okay.
Thank you, Molly.
And Norma, you're seconding it? And you're accepting, okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Third and last time, are there any nominations for vice chair? Molly, you are vice chair by acclamation. Okay. Hang on, I better write this down and get back to my office, and I'll forget it. Okay, now for the position of secretary. Are there any nominations for the position of secretary?
Melanie Kelly?
Melanie Kelly, will you let your name stand? No? Nice try. Are there any?
Thank you. Did Chris say she'd let her name stand?
No, she said she couldn't. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. No, she can't let her name stand. Wendy, are you nominating for Molly?
Yes, I'll.
Would you let your name stand?
I can't.
Okay. If it means anything to this group, I'm going to be suggesting some constitutional changes for next year. The way it reads right now, your secretary is supposed to take minutes and do a number of other things, which would actually mean that you're going to have records in this building, in this house, and records in this office. Doesn't make a lot of sense, all the records should be in one spot. So I'm just going to make a recommendation that next year's constitution revises the role of the secretary so it doesn't have to include minute taking per se, minute approval, yes, but not minute taking. So in reality, in practice, I'll probably take your minutes for you, whoever is secretary. So if that is a problem for you, anybody let your name stand now?
I know.
So I'm going to take Molly as the mover for that. Okay? And is there a seconder? Okay. And you've said you'll let your name stand. Good. Are there any other nominations for secretary? That's one. Any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, congratulations, Wendy, you are secretary by acclamation. Alrighty, now treasurer. Okay, so treasurer. What can I say about treasurer? So once again, the responsibility of that role has fallen to me, and it's been a wonderful learning opportunity for me. I love reading numbers. I don't like having to prepare them. I really don't care. It's just when things don't balance, that's really bothers me. But I'm getting better at it. So in reality, the treasurer's position for the time being will probably be very similar to the secretary's. In practice, the treasurer will probably only have to approve the work that's been done or read it and take a look at it. Won't actually have to do the work itself, at least for the time being. On this score, I'm going to be making a recommendation that we outsource the financial or get an executive director, find some core funding and get an executive director to do that. If this organization is going to grow, then you have to seriously look at things like that. So, anyways, having said all of that, is there anyone you'd like to nominate for treasurer?
What names are left? Can't read it.
Oh, Helen Koke, Chris Fritz, but Chris doesn't want to serve on any executive position. Melanie, no, Melanie doesn't either. Okay, there's Esther. Norma is your past president. There's Jason and Ron and Gertie. Nick.
Gertie's waving at you.
Oh, okay, so Gertie's saying no. So that's Ron Trainer, Jason Cook, Esther Latchman, and well, Helen doesn't really want it.
Jason? Mr. Cook? What's 1 plus 1?
1.
I nominate Jason.
Jason, will you let your name stand to be treasurer? You don't have,
That's too much work for me.
well, if you
You're
were,
not doing it.
if you were listening, no.
No.
You don't have to do the day-to-day work. All you have to do is approve what I do it and I show you and you make sure that it looks okay.
Make sure she's doing it. I know what a treasurer does, because I've held positions like that before.
Well, it's just that in the Constitution, you would have to do all the work, but I'm saying in practice, you don't do all the work, so that's all.
Well, directed.
Yeah.
No, it's just something you got too much on my plate.
You got too much on your plate? Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so Gertie has said no. Jason has said no. There's Esther. Okay, Helen has said no. So there's Esther or Ron. Trainer.
Mr. Trainer. What's 1 and 1?
Pay is pretty good.
It's excellent. Excellent. You can even double your salary the first week.
Give me the instrument.
Yeah.
Get money.
Pardon me? No. You'll let your name stand, Ron? Okay. So Wendy, you're or Norma, you're moving him? No, Linda. Is there a seconder for Ron Trainer?
I'll second.
Who is that? Okay, Bart. Okay, are there any other nominations for treasurer? God, getting one before any other nominations for treasurer for the third time? Any nominations for treasurer the third time? Okay, congratulations, Ryan, you are in by acclamation. Yeah. Good. So, once I get this all typed up, you'll see it officially. So now, can we call for a motion to adjourn? I believe we can.
Before you adjourn, could I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
We were just interested on when we will be able to get the exercises that Rotary started again, and when we can expect some care.
Okay.
We just advocate for that.
Yeah, we were hoping Colleen, okay, in terms of exercise, Colleen from the NRHA is the one who runs the exercises. We actually don't have anything to do with this project.
She won't even get back to you when you leave.
Hang on. I spoke with her day before yesterday. And what she said is that she is working on trying to get the Rotary plates for 3 times a week. She can only have 13 people. And it's going to be offered to the people who were originally part of the program first. And other than that, she said she can't say anything else because she has to get permission herself from the province to do that, or whoever her boss is. And then she has to make sure she can still get Rotary plates, although she doesn't know why she couldn't. But that was her response to that.
Is it possible to get something from the city? Like once they get everything opened up again, they got the rec center?
Could we hold it there? I'm hoping that that's one of the things that I can talk to Carol Taylor about. It was Carol Taylor who emailed me this morning, which, in all honesty, I find very surprising because I've emailed her 4 times since I started in September of last year to have a meeting to discuss what we can do for seniors. And 4 times she has told me she's interested. Yes, let's plan something. We even talked about Manitoba Games 55 over the phone one time, but we've never met. Every time we are going to set a date, she's going out of town and she's got some reason she can't meet. So I'm hoping it works this time, especially seeing as we have the deputy mayor sitting in the room and now she knows about it.
There'll be more space to offer everything together.
Sorry?
There'll be more space.
There would be more space,
Yeah.
spread out better.
You can have more than 13 people at a
You
class.
can have more than
Yeah.
13 people, yeah. So, yes, I'm hoping that would be one of one of the things that the city will be doing. I also had an email request from somebody who would just like to be able to get onto the walking track, if nothing else. So that'll also be part of the conversation. And fees for seniors for different things was another request that I had on some of my phone calls that I make to people. So there's a few things we'll have to talk to about. Some things that Carol will be able to address, and some things that she can't. Like she has no control over fees, for instance. If you're a seniors discount, she cannot promise that, but she can take that up the ladder as well.
In the past, she has mentioned a number of years ago too, that the area where the chairs are in the lobby, we could utilize that at no cost as well, because there's no cost for that area, right?
Yeah.
At some time for maybe coffee conversation, whatever kind of programming you're having too.
Yeah.
So there's multiple options.
There's tons of ideas.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to get in and use the space.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, I think, did you mention foot care too? So, in terms of foot care, actually I had a talk with Milt Goble not that long ago about some of the steps that he did when he was advocating on his own. I've got a draft letter started. So here's the situation with foot care. When I talked to Colleen, our liaison with the NRHA, I said, who do I talk to about foot care? So she gave me the name of this person, a female lady, whatever. She said, she's in charge. I sent the woman 2 emails, and I phoned and left a message, never had the courtesy of a response, acknowledging it. So when I got back to Colleen Collins, I said, okay, Colleen, that's not working, who else would I talk to? Well, I guess you'll have to try Twyla Story. Twyla Story is their communications person. I know darn well she's not going to make any, but I sent to Twyla an email anyways. 2 emails and a phone call and left a message. Not even the courtesy of a response from Twyla.
Right.
So I think the NRHA is, so anyways, let me back up. So this conversation I had with Milt had sent a letter to Helga Bryan. And Milt had sent a letter to that first lady I mentioned and tried to communicate with her. Same thing, very poor response. So I think the next step is start going straight to the minister. And when Kathy was talking about getting support from the city, I think this is one area, the advocacy. When the AMM meeting comes up in this fall, get the city to advocate for us for foot care. They've got, what, 14 or 12 or 14 foot care centers in Winnipeg, none outside of Winnipeg. Where's the highest incidence of, or ratio of diabetes and everything else in foot care required? It's in the north. So, so we're working on that. In the meantime, I had talked to a resource council in Killarney, I think it was Killarney. They had done something different a number of years ago. They were in this situation where they had no foot care. So they found 2 nurses who were willing to take the foot care courses, and the council paid for it. And the council also provided the bookkeeping experience, and the 2 nurses set themselves up in a little private clinic. Now, so they were able to offer the medical foot care that's required. Trouble is, it wasn't free, of course, it was a private clinic. But it solved the problem to their satisfaction. Anyways, I don't know if it would solve that, if that would solve it to our satisfaction. But it solved it to their satisfaction because the one nurse, she had to leave after 14 years because her husband got transferred. The other one retired after 25 years. So it worked. You know, they had foot care for that length of time. So that's another option we can look at. But anytime I've mentioned that to anybody, they kind of turn their noses up at it. They want to pay for it. If they don't have to, then that's where that is at. And if you have any suggestions, learning or other people to talk to or get support from for advocating for foot care, I will welcome you. Any other questions? Does somebody want to move that we adjourn the meeting? Esther has tried to do this 3 times now. Thank you.